republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Heavenly Father, we come before you with gratitude for the opportunity to serve our community. Thank you for the gift of leadership and the trust placed in each person here. Grant us wisdom to make decisions that are fair, just, and beneficial for all. Help us to listen with open hearts, speak with respect, and act with integrity. May our discussions be guided by truth, compassion, and a shared desire for the common good. Bless our city, its people, and the work we do today. May our efforts bring unity, progress, and hope for a brighter future. In your holy name we pray. Amen.
We are going to start with Tammy Bader, who's here to talk to us about the floodplain mitigation.
It's been a while since I've been here. If you all remember, Representative Hart was here a couple of months ago to talk to you about flood mitigation and trying to find new and innovative ways that we could deal with flooding not only in Falmouth but Pendleton County, with the end result that it would improve the quality of life and the opportunities in Pendleton County, thus being that we could go back to FEMA and ask them to update the floodplain and hopefully get some of the area out of the floodplain area, which would, especially on 27, would give an opportunity for economic growth with businesses willing to invest. We're hoping that based on the study that we will have those opportunities. The total study cost, as he told you, was and I guess I could be handing these out, $53,000, of which the city of Falmouth, city of Butler both agreed to proportionately take $11,000 of that cost. Can you share your copy with her?
I can share.
Okay, I thought I had enough copies. And and the county was going to take $33,000 of that. Megan has a copy of the proposal where they have given us that cost estimate at $53,000, of which that scope of work is what he is recommending as part of that contract. In order to move forward, we want to be able to get the funds secured because once he starts, if I tell him we want this done in XYZ amount of time, we want to be able and quickly be able to prepare to pay for that invoice. I understood from Steve here a while back, you all may have to amend your budget, and so that's why I'm here tonight to ask you all to move forward with that so that we can continue to move quickly on this. We would like to have this done hopefully by the end of this fiscal year, which of course would be the end of June. I'd like to be able to have him start on this by the 1st of May, and that would give him 2 months to actually do the project. As you can see from the scope of work, it would actually cover him coming in and doing an analysis study, and Jim, I'm gonna borrow your copy. That would actually be your hydraulic modeling. Basically what he'll do is he will go in and look at data as well as look at the river, and specifically, I don't know, I assume he's doing the South Fork, because that's where the major of the flooding comes. And they would put that in there. They would look at, we would tell them what level of flooding versus the 1%, which would be the 100-year, or if we want to look at modeling based on a 10-year average, things of that nature, the dynamics of that we still have to work out. And he would tell us from that how much acreage we would be able to utilize in order to redirect that flow during flooding. At this point, nobody is being targeted as far as taking land, or doing anything to it. At this point, until we know what he says, he might come back and say 3 acres of land will suffice what you're doing. With as many FEMA properties as the city of Falmouth has, you may be able to utilize that property. I know we've kind of talked a little bit about some areas that, especially on the north end after you cross the railroad tracks, out on 27 places in there. So we are looking at where we see a lot of damage, and you also have a lot of FEMA property. After that, they will come back and make that recommendation and give us a conceptual plan with documentation. And from there, they will give us the opportunity to go into the construction phase. We have the opportunity to do everything to construction. From a cost perspective, we are also utilizing some funds through the Scripps Foundation, of which you all are utilizing, to help cover some of this cost. So this may get us, we're hoping to get maybe one green sink built. That's what we're trying to stretch it. So that way we can use it as a model. I think we all realize that, with spring coming on, we wonder when is that next time going to happen. We saw that last year. So that's why we really want to get moving on this. And with us using local funds and not having to use federal dollars to go through with this, we can move this a lot faster. So potentially, we could see success as far as this project, hopefully in the next 5 years. That would be a target. Hopefully we don't have to have a flood to see if it works, but we will be ready. So that's kind of what I'm here tonight, is to tell you about that and to see if you have any questions on that, or if I can answer any economic development and tourism questions. It's been a while since I've been here.
How much is it exactly that we're doing?
11,000.
So Paul should be here next week with the first budget amendment. So we'll have him put a line item in there for the $11,000 for this specific project.
And she's got the invoice, she's got the proposal with the total cost, as well as this is the scope of work that he gave with his proposal.
Can the money from the Script Foundation fund this all part
Not
of the study?
Not at this point. What we're trying to do is to hold it back so we don't have to go after public funds. So if we do the initial investment, that is our investment to it, and then the rest of the money and their funds will pay for everything.
Yeah, because their funds they've got some of the grant money that the county's getting is going to this, and it's what,
It's the actual cost for the entire study is over $100,000.
yeah, and so they're picking up the rest of that.
Yes, so that's part of the reason why we were trying to kind of help out a little bit, because I think it's $110,000 to do a complete countywide study. But Falmouth is the priority. Then we will look at Butler, and then in between Butler and Falmouth.
Yeah, because there's a couple of places that are out in the county that when we flooded in April
Yes,
last year, there were a few homes that were being impacted out in the county in different places, and I forget where. I think one was like Demossville and one was somewhere else.
you have to
So they have flooding out there too in the county that houses are being impacted on too, so.
So that's why Falmouth is first, because you're upstream. And when you're upstream, if we go downstream first, it's,
Yeah.
so that's why Falmouth is the priority first. And then of course Butler, because they had the second most impact, and then third will be the county level. The bigger picture of this is overall, when we get done with this project over the years, is hopefully that we will have an opportunity to use part of the South Fork as a recreational opportunity around the athletic park, to use that part of the river to create a tourism destination. But again, we have to deal with a couple of things, and a lot of the communities are using the opportunity with the green sinks to use them for tourism recreation. And so that's why we're kind of targeting places that we also feel can double up, lack of better terms. So when we're not having anything going on, communities are using it for amphitheaters, soccer fields, just walking trails, wetlands. Moorhead is doing it. Paris is looking at it right now. Moorhead's probably the one that's most close to us, and they were able to connect and do walking trails. And I know for Butler, by the time we get done with the Boo project and hopefully this, that all the way around a whole quarter of the city of Butler, they will have a walking trail. We have the South Fork, part of this up there, the Barth Johnson Trail, and would like to eventually take it around. One of the areas that we are looking into this is also to study the bank instability that's happening on, behind, the street you love, Craig.
What's that?
What's the name
That's
of the
not Water Street. What's that street that runs behind Wyatt's?
State
State Street.
State Street, because
Yeah,
because what's happening is
it's eroding away, yeah.
the flow of the water is pushing up and it's going that way, and then it's going on down, and when you go on around there, in behind where Harrison Memorial Primary Care, it's actually cutting out that side of the bank because it's banking off. So we are gonna look at some of this as well to see if we can help stabilize that and put some riparian zones in. So,
What about, so I got an email about the new brick grant that's coming out.
haven't even looked at it yet, but that's definitely what I wanna look at
I
because,
can send you the email that we got from the ad about it, and it's not for the last brick grant stuff, it's for the new brick grant that's coming out for the next couple of years, because that was about like mitigation for your emergencies, because we were looking, I was talking with the ad about looking at maybe moving some of the water plant's infrastructure out of the flood zone, or even putting a permanent wall around our substation. But I mean, that might be if we could maybe get money, I don't know if that would qualify for the green sinks, but I'll forward you that email.
I've got it.
Okay.
One of the things that we were trying to do with this is not use federal funding.
Yeah, no, I know.
Because of the timeline,
Yeah,
but there's nothing that says that we can't partner it up, like you said, you know,
down
creating
the road, yeah.
a buffer zone to protect the infrastructure. So
Yeah.
I think we need to marry the two together, but that was the nice thing about the Scripps Foundation.
Because we can kind of get a lot of this going, and then maybe, you know, if there were other possibilities in a year or two for funding, then we could keep on growing with what we're doing.
We're trying to save all of our opportunities for the construction.
Yeah.
And that's where we'll start trying to, and by then, we're actually hoping that the state will also have supportive funding specific for these type of projects.
I don't know. any
They've
state
already, I
budget.
mean, they've been talking about that, so trying to find ways to do that, so through Division of Water
Yeah.
and EPA, all the above. So,
Exciting stuff, yeah.
but like I said, we've got enough money that if with the cities and the county and the Adam Scripps, that we can get us all the way up to construction, and we're really hoping we can get one green sink built. So,
Sounds like a plan.
any other questions?
Remind me again, I know we voted to do this.
Yeah.
Where we say that money's coming from?
Maybe just straight out of the general fund, I don't know. We'll find out when Paul tells us where it's coming from, but we're just gonna put it as a line item. Cause the other thing is all the LGEA money, whatever, that's all sitting, it's like $250,000 is still sitting in that account, because that wasn't actually included in the budget amendment ordinance that we did. So we could just pull it out of there, cause like the money that we paid to KRT and that stuff didn't come out of there, it came out of our general fund. So once he brings the budget proposal, and part of that is taking out that LGEA separate account and kind of putting it back into the general fund, that money, so we could take it from there probably.
I thought
Yeah.
we knew where it was coming from. So.
Yeah. So,
I can't remember, it's been a little bit foggy for me since I
I
was.
got it in my notes, but
On a quick side note, I know it's not related to flood mitigation, but, Pendleton County, has been conditionally approved for up to $2 million. We're going for $2 million. On April 30th, we go before the Kentucky Economic Development Finance Authority for the final approval. All that funding will go to the industrial park to make improvements, which has an effect on the city because it's in the city limits. So,
yeah, cause you guys are putting, I don't know, you do wanna tell them about that, what you guys are looking for with that?
we're going to do upgrades to the infrastructure, finish it completely back, go ahead and upgrade and fix the road all the way back, including curbing, lighting, landscaping, water, sewer. Gas goes to right there at 27, so we are not putting gas back. but that will get us everything we need. With the only thing that'll probably be our impediment is we're gonna be limited on the electricity. But if somebody comes in and needs more power, then we can go back and ask for upgrades on that. So, but it keeps electricity at the same kilowatt, the wattage power, but it's gonna be really nice. We're hoping to have a design plan hopefully in the next 6 to 8 months on that, so we'll have that ready.
Maybe we'll get some more people to move in out there.
We've had some interest, we're getting interest.
Yay.
But there you go. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And now we need to accept the minutes from the meeting on March 19th.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes from March 19th.
I'll second.
Everybody in favor?
Yes.
Okay, now we're gonna move on to the handbook. Megan emailed it to everybody. Joyce, we had a bunch of printed copies, but, all the employees were here. We did the 2-hour training with KLC today with Michael Simon. He came up and went over the whole handbook, with all the city employees, I think maybe except 2 or 3, like the police officers who worked all night last night, those kind of things, they weren't here, but Marty's gonna sit down with them individually and kind of go over everything. We went over the entire handbook. It all went well. I mean, the employees weren't complaining about anything. I don't think there's really many questions. We just kind of explained how all that worked. The vacation stuff, I think, is probably one of the biggest changes, just the way that it's being given to them. And then when people, if they voluntarily separate from the city, they're not getting all that, like it's broken down. Like I said, they get it all at the first of the year. If they quit, say like in June, essentially if they've used all their vacation they got, they're gonna have to pay that back. And then the sick time, depending on how long they've been employed here, that will depend on how much they, like it caps them off pretty low on how much sick time basically the city will pay them out. We added the 2 holidays, we kept the PTO. What other big changes? Yeah. I think a lot of it's just cleaning it up, some of the things. But did you, I don't know, I'm assuming everybody's looked over it?
Yeah.
So then we can vote on it. But I don't know if you guys have any questions though.
So, I mean, it's pretty cut and dry. I think it is.
So none of the employees had any problem with it?
No, I think it'll make it a lot better because now it's not going to be mayor discretion on a lot of things. And we're also not doing the yearly reviews, evaluations. That's not a thing anymore. They feel that that's more of a private sector thing that the public sector kind of took at some point, but it's really not beneficial because when you sit down with an employee, say February, and do their yearly review, you're more or less just going to focus on what happened in January. So it's better. They've got all these forms in the back. And so they've got a form about, like where basically it's continuous feedback is what they call it. So basically if there's an issue, you address it then instead of waiting until yearly review, and it sets goals for those employees and that kind of stuff. But the council, or Megan will start implementing all these new forms that they have. And we're doing the background checks. They'll start doing yearly license checks, like, cause they weren't doing this stuff before, they didn't have forms for that, so now they have to sign a form, and the beginning of every year, Megan's gonna run everybody's license, driver's license, you know, make sure that nobody's suspended license, but just need you guys to vote for it.
I'll make a motion to adopt the new personnel policy.
I'll second.
Everybody in favor?
Yes.
For the Westland Church, Steve has sent him a contract. They have some revisions. He messaged me today, so we felt the best path forward. I cannot think of the gentleman's first name, but he's going to get with his board. They're going to make some suggested revisions, and they're gonna give it back to us before the next council meeting. And then we can vote on it at the next council meeting to give us time to kind of figure out what changes that or what things maybe that they wanna change in the contract. So, we're not doing anything with that today. Now we're on to the first reading for the ordinance establishing the payroll tax.
And I don't know if this was a first reading. I think we were just putting these out here to discuss. Or were y'all?
That's what I thought.
Yeah, that was my understanding from it, because I don't think we published anything.
Did we publish, we're supposed to publish them before our meeting?
Right. Yeah, I don't think it's first reading, just to
Okay.
clarify.
So we gotta give it to the outlet before we make it.
That's how it's passed.
You see, we thought that
Well,
before.
but I'm just saying, I just thought that we were,
Whatever,
because
whichever
we're
way we
gonna
wanna
need,
go,
well,
yeah,
and because we're gonna need to make significant,
okay.
depending on what you guys want to do.
Well, if we make the changes tonight and they go ahead and we have a first reading and then we publish that reading, then we would come back and have a second reading and publish it the second
Yeah.
time. So we can make the changes and then Megan will, then we could essentially, if they wanted to move forward, right, and vote to have the first reading? Or have it? I'm lost now because I'm not saying we've done it right before, I'm just,
No, I thought we were just doing,
Previously.
I thought this was just for discussion only, because we were gonna propose all three options. And then decide what you guys, take the temperature of the body, and then actually put forward the policy.
okay, so then do we publish it then before?
And then we would, I think because it's a tax increase, we need to publish ahead of time.
Okay.
And do more notice.
Hey, whatever, yeah, I'm good with whatever process we need to take, so.
And part of it too is because these three, we're all, the way that you're in section 110 of the Falmouth Code of Ordinances. And all of these are going to be in that section, and some of them, there's interplay between the two,
Okay.
right? And so when you all decide what you want to do, what taxes you do want to implement or don't want to implement, or what rates, then we'll put together one ordinance
Gotcha.
that will have everything in it, so we're not doing three separate, because you're all in the same area, and you're gonna have, you might have a conflict
That
between
makes
the two, and you just wanna
sense.
resolve that, okay?
Okay,
So the first one here is for the occupational license tax. And what this one would do, would be a 1.5% on wages. This is your payroll tax. So this is one is what's numbered as. Okay? And so we would amend in that chapter of 110. And what you've got here, there are no definitions in section 110, and you'll see this because we've got to put new definitions in. So we'll probably just, depending on what you want to do, or what I will do when you make your decision, is we're probably just going to repeal the whole section and replace it with a whole new section that'll have definitions of all the things that you guys are doing, employee, employer, all those things, and then set forth that policy. So the big part of it is here, and what we've numbered as 1016. That's the imposition of the tax. It'd be at the 1.5% of all wages and compensation paid or payable by those employees. There are certain exceptions and exemptions. Obviously, those that are given by the state and by the federal government. The employers would withhold that tax and pay it to you all on a quarterly basis, to the clerk or treasurer, and then that's who would also be the enforcement body, and then you'd be able to use those revenues. The effective date, I'm assuming you guys would want it to be the next fiscal year, so we've got that set as July 1st, 2026 on that one. If there are any questions on that, happy to answer or any feedback.
Not from me on this one. I mean, tracks with what we discussed last time. So
And then so the second one that we've got here, this is your occupational license fee. And so that's just the fee for somebody to get a license. I've drafted it as a $50 is that baseline like we discussed, and then for every $100,000 that you go up in those gross receipts per year, it increases by 50%, or by $50, right? And so you're seeing that broke down. We don't continue it on forever, but it would continue on forever, hypothetically adding that extra $50. For the first year, everybody would be at $50 because they've not.
Yeah, they've already paid for this year. basically.
A new one.
Okay.
Their first year would be at 50. They don't know. They don't have, so everybody's gonna do first we hit with that baseline. Even if you make $1 million, you're not paying the $1 million rate your first year. It'd be that following year. The E here, on 11013 E, sexually oriented businesses, that's already in there, and so that we're just following through with that. The county has that $1,000 fee scheduled there, and then again a definition that we would put in. One of the things you guys had talked about, and it's not in here, but it's kind of in here. There's something like that in here. Is you talked about a potential, like a short-term license, right? I believe the way that it was originally in the ordinance is that it was kind of a prorated thing, I think, which means if somebody's doing the Wolf Fest and they're getting one, I mean, you prorate $50 over a half year or over 3 days. There's kind of no point. I think you guys set a minimum of $10.
it's 20.
Was it 20? And so what this would do is this just says $10 for that short-term period. There's half-year licenses, that kind of thing, where somebody could just use it for a little bit. Happy to tweak that to whatever you guys want on that issue. And that's pretty much your occupational license fees.
One thing on this one, and it may be applicable to the next one as well, I didn't think about until after the meeting, was I know when we posted the reminder about the current ordinance and everybody was up in arms about it, one group in particular of people were landlords, because they were saying that it wasn't specifically stated in the current ordinance that landlords have to pay this license. So do we need to put that explicitly in here to make sure that
we can define business as that.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it is a business; they should be paying.
Yeah,
it.
I mean, I agree.
Yeah.
And then
Just take the ambiguity out of it, so there's no question.
The other thing that's come up is that we have some businesses that maybe let's say I have an LLC, but then I'm running other businesses and they might be a different storefront and a completely different business under like a doing business as name, but under that same initial LLC. And I talked to Morgan Patterson about it, and she said that we could specify that every storefront would require its own license. She's like, but you're not really making much of a profit off the license fee itself. And so if they want to keep all that in one LLC, that might benefit more when you're looking at their gross receipts, because now that's all, they can't separate out their gross receipts for their different businesses. It's all going to be in the one, and same thing with their net profits. It would all be under that one LLC. So I didn't know, I just wanted to put that out there to you guys. We could just leave it like it is, because she said ultimately you're not really making, the profit's not really from the license fees. Your profit's from the other ways. But we'd still get a license fee. It's just based off of this schedule. Instead of them just paying the $50 on the gross receipts for the one business, they'd be paying all their gross receipts combined then. So I figured I just wanted to tell you guys that, because that's kind of come up, and that was something I asked her about. So.
And then if everybody's good with that, when we define business, we'll make sure that that's per LLC or tax ID number. and not storefront. Okay. All right, and then your last one here is the net profits tax of 1%. That's number 3. And again, so what we've got in here is your imposition number at 25 down there. 1% is what that would be. They would submit tax returns, and they would have a sheet or a form that you'd go through. And then again, those same exemptions, refunds and credits, administration and enforcement, all of those same things in the withholding tax are included in here as well.
Is there a penalty, if they pay late?
I believe we put it here like 10%. On one of them I put in 10%,
Okay.
just as a kind of,
Yeah,
just looking around, I thought, yeah, that makes, other people are doing that.
yeah,
Penalties for failure to file or pay shall include interest at the rate provided by state law.
Which is
110.29.
yeah, which is it was 12, and maybe they moved it down to 6 or something. They did change that.
so when we have it all into one though, would the penalty then be it would just be one penalty?
It would be
for
one
all?
penalty
Yeah.
rate.
Okay.
It would all line up
Yeah.
the same.
You said there'd be a form. Is that something we have to create from scratch?
You have an administrative form. You're not going to reinvent the wheel.
That's what I was wondering.
we're
Maybe the
looking-
state had some like standard forms.
There is, they come out with standards for, that's a good point, is that they did, my understanding was that they passed that where they're not going to collect the tax, cause that was the discussion at first. But they came back and said, no, but everyone has to go to these standardized forms, and I wanna say that was like October of 27 maybe was the deadline?
Yeah, we passed it. I never know what the Senate does.
Yeah.
We definitely passed it.
That was the idea though, so I think if we're gonna implement it, we might as well use their standardized forms that they're wanting in case that did become a thing or does become a thing down the road. And then we've already started looking at, we've had one, demo with one software company, and we're setting up demos with some other ones, and part of that is to get a program for Megan to be able to collect, like, to keep track of all these taxes and stuff, so we're looking at that already too.
And then if there's no other questions, then what I'll do is I'll put together one omnibus, we'll call it, ordinance that would include all of these things so that everything lines up. And
So basically, we're just gonna repeal all of the 110
Yeah, we'll
ordinance as
repeal-
it is, and then just put a new one in, incorporating all 3 of these things into one.
yep, and if there's things we want to keep, we'll keep. If there's not, we won't, and we'll just repeal it all with one clean statute that works, or one chapter that all works together. And then we'll have that. I'll have that to you guys. It shouldn't take too long for me to just put it all together into one. It's all I just gotta put it together in one, and then get that to you guys, and then we can get the process rolling of an actual first reading and a second.
Is there anything you guys wanna change?
So, I mean, it's pretty black and white. I mean,
I think so. I think we already covered it. So the landlord thing and the $20 minimum for partial.
Okay, then we're moving right along, we're gonna go into a closed session, I just need a motion, if somebody wants to do a motion and cite that little part right there.
Read that.
I'll make a motion that we run a closed session for deliberations on the future sale of real property by the city, where publicity would likely affect the value of a specific piece of property to be sold by the city pursuant to KRS 61.810.
Okay, so we're gonna need everyone to step out for a minute, shouldn't take very long.